Michael, good afternoon. Always good to be with you.
I know you're barnstorming the state. Are you having fun out there?
Right now, out in El Paso, I just finished riding on a chopper with the Border Patrol all along the Rio Grande and into New Mexico, and meeting with them, meeting with their horseback patrol and the patrol that goes through the desert. And you'll like that we also swung by the world-famous Rosa's Cantina.
I saw that. What did you eat there?
We didn't get to eat there, sadly. We just stopped. I said, pull over. I want to take a picture in front of it.
What are people saying to you out there as you're campaigning?
Well, we've been all over the state. We've probably been in a dozen or more cities in the last week. We've been down in the valley last few days. We're in Laredo and McAllen and Mission and Farr and Brownsville. And we've been out in Katy and Addison and Tyler and Amarillo and Lubbock. And, as we crisscross the state, there's a consistent message, which is that people are, number one, hopeful that with a Republican administration and Republican majorities in both houses, that we can deliver on everything we've been promising, that we can repeal Obamacare and cut taxes and cut regulations and see jobs coming back. But people are also frustrated. They're frustrated and ticked that we're sitting here in late August and we haven't got it done yet. And they're mad at Congress. They're frustrated, and they want Republicans to stop running around shooting each other and focus on get the job done, which is very much what I'm trying to do each and every day.
You offered, Senator Ted Cruz is our guest, you offered some compromise provisions to try to get Obamacare repeal completed, and yet we still lost a few Republicans on that. What's it going to take to get those individuals on board with this?
Well, it is certainly frustrating. A few weeks ago, we had the vote on the Senate floor, and we went down by a single vote, and it was maddening. But, I don't think we're done. And a lot of folks in the press celebrated that was the final defeat of repeal. I think that's wrong. I think failure is not an option. Republicans, we've been for 7 years promising the American people, if you elect us, we will repeal this disaster of a law. I think if we fail to deliver, we collectively look like fools. And I'll tell you, Michael, I think we are closer than many outside observers believe. I think we probably have 45, 46 substantive votes in the Senate. We need 50. That means we need another 4 or 5. And so I am spending every waking moment, day and night, meeting with my colleagues, trying to bring Republicans together, trying to unite conservatives and moderates and leadership and the president, the administration, bring everyone on the same page. And the way we do it, I believe, we focus on lowering premiums. The biggest reason people hate Obamacare, they're hurting under Obamacare, is it's made premiums skyrocket. And I hear from Texans all the time, I can't afford health insurance. If we lower premiums through more competition, more choices, more consumer freedom, that's how we bring Republicans together. That's how we get a win for everybody.
Well, and I think, doing away with the individual mandate and doing away with the employer mandates, the low-hanging fruit, you knock those two out and you do away with the device problems and complications. And, even if that was all that was done, it's not all I want done, but that would be a victory that you could take on the campaign trail.
I think if we fail to deliver on Obamacare, on tax reform, on reg reform, on judges, I think the policy consequences will be catastrophic. But I also think the political consequences will be catastrophic, that we risk having a Nancy Pelosi House and a Chuck Schumer Senate. We risk people to say it, to heck with all of them, you people don't do what you said. And I'm, with every breath in my body, I'm fighting for that not to happen.
Senator, you issued a statement today. Obviously, Texas is very concerned, as is Louisiana, with the impending storm. Your thoughts?
Well, we've got Hurricane Harvey out in the Gulf. They're expecting it to be a Category 3 hurricane to make landfall late tomorrow in Texas. Somewhere in South Texas is the current prediction. And right now, the projections are we could see upwards of 20 inches of rain all along the Gulf Coast. I would urge everyone. Houston, obviously, we've had a lot of issues with flooding. Flooding can be tremendously dangerous, so I just urge everyone listening, to monitor closely the emergency notices. If you get an evacuation notice, treat it seriously and take precautions. Stock up if you can on food and water and batteries. If power goes out, and just treat it seriously. These storms can be very dangerous, and the best way to minimize the risk of life, loss of life or injury is to treat them seriously and be prepared.
Senator Ted Cruz is our guest. You've been on the border with the Border Patrol. What is the state of the border in the summer of 2017 compared to a year ago?
Well, it's actually remarkable. We have seen in the last 8 months a reduction in illegal immigration of over 60%, nearly 70%, which is an astonishing. It's one of the biggest success stories of the Trump administration. And I've visited a number of times with Border Patrol agents, and I've asked them over and over again, why is this? What has happened? What's changed? Obviously we have not yet built a wall. We haven't yet significantly increased our Border Patrol agents. So I've asked them, all right, how do you get those kind of incredible results that quickly? And the answer that I'm consistently told is the only real difference is that the Mexican drug cartels and coyotes understand now that there's an administration that will enforce the law and that they're not going to simply release those traffickers and coyotes who are apprehended, and they're just not coming. And it's a remarkable testament to the power, to our ability, number one, to secure the border, that we can do this with resolve, but number two, to the power of simply enforcing the law, and we need to continue doing that and supplement it with resources and wall and fencing and technology and Border Patrol agents.
The Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, known as DACA,
yep,
as you know, is a sort of executive or administrative override of our deportation policies. News coming out today that the president is considering ending DACA. Is that the right move?
Well, when President Obama put in place executive amnesty, he did so, both DACA and DAPA were contrary to law. There's no legal authority to do what Obama did. He was ignoring and defying federal immigration laws, and the president shouldn't do that. The president takes an oath under the Constitution, is obliged under the Constitution to take care that the laws be faithfully executed. And so, of course, the administration should not be continuing Obama's lawless actions. I think they've devoted real resources to enforcing the law, but we need to continue to respect the rule of law as well, and we need to end executive amnesty.
Senator Ted Cruz is our guest. Tax reform and the anticipation that it would happen, a lot of people believe, is why we've seen over 30 historic highs in the stock market this year alone. Is that going to happen? And if so, what are the things that we can absolutely expect to happen?
I believe it will. I think we're likely to see tax reform pass either late this year or early next year. And I think it's critical. I think it's one of the four major priorities for Congress and the administration. I think the four big priorities are repealing Obamacare, tax reform, regulatory reform, and appointing and confirming strong constitutionalist judges. When it comes to tax reform, it is a powerful, powerful lever to facilitate the private sector creating jobs, to facilitate small businesses growing, expanding, raising wages. What I've urged the president on tax reform is really two words: bold and simple. I think there's enormous power to bold simplicity when it comes to tax reform. As you know, Michael, what I'd like to see ideally is a simple flat tax where every one of us fills out our taxes on a postcard and we abolish the IRS. Now, I don't know that we'll go that far. We may not. But that's what I'm urging the president. It's what I'm urging my colleagues. And if we don't go that far, I think the closest we get to that, the better off we are. That the simpler it is, the less complexity, the less burden, the less power the IRS has, the better.
Senator Ted Cruz is our guest. Two of your colleagues, Jeff Flake from Arizona and a new colleague, Luther Strange from Alabama, are facing primary challenges. President Trump has weighed in on both of those races. Will you?
Well, I have consistently in my time in the Senate stayed out of incumbent primary races. And it's the nature of I've got a job to represent Texas, and to fight for 28 million Texans, to fight for the principles and values we believe in, to fight for jobs and economic growth in the Constitution. And so consistently I've stayed out on either side, supporting or opposing incumbent primary races. I think every incumbent politician owes it to the voters to make the case to the voters why he or she should be reelected and why they're doing a good job. And so I trust the voters of those respective states to make that determination, to hold us all accountable, hold me accountable, hold everybody else accountable. Are we doing what we said we were doing? Are we standing for the principles that we promised the voters we would stand for? And if we are, then we deserve reelection. And if we're not, well, the voters have a remedy for that as well.
Texas Monthly Magazine, their quote of the day today is from you, speaking at an American Legion conference in Nevada yesterday, and according to Texas Tribune, and the line was, "Can't everyone just chill out?" What do you mean?
Well, yeah, look, it's obviously in the wake of Charlottesville, where we saw hatred and violence and murder. This has been a difficult couple of weeks for our country, and I think we've seen just a lot of anger, a lot of vitriol spilling out, and I think an awful lot of us, certainly me included, just wish, well, look, as you just quoted, just wish folks would chill out a little bit. Let's focus on shared principles, shared values. One of the great things about Texans is we value common sense, and in Texas we understand, where do you get jobs? You get jobs by getting government out of the way, by cutting taxes, cutting regulations, and letting small businesses grow. We ought to focus on substance, results, and not get consumed by the political circus in Washington, the personal attacks, the nastiness, the hatred. Let's try to come together and deliver results, and that's a win for everyone. I hope people do it, because I think that's very much what the American people want, I believe.